YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with our fourth video on this busy day in the NFL. Laremy Tunsil traded from the Miami Dolphins to the Houston Texans for a bunch of picks. We're going to go over the details and grade both teams off this trade. Did the same video for the Clowney trade as well and had a couple other videos uploaded. Very busy day for us. Right before we get started, if you want to get in on our Discord private chat with constant NFL discussions, click that link, patreon.com/thegoathouse, link in the description. You can join our NFL Pick'ems League as well. Plenty more. You guys can join just for more info. Click that link. And then if you're not subscribed to our channel, I don't know what you're doing. 4 videos on the day, daily videos, full coverage of the NFL end season. So please click that subscribe button, click the notifications on, click the like button, check out our Twitter, all that. Would be much appreciated and for sure worth it for you. Let's go over the trade details. So a lot went on in this one. The Texans get Laremy Tunsil, left tackle from the Dolphins. Kenny Stills, a 2020 4th-round pick and a 2021 6th-round pick. The Dolphins get a 2020 1st-round pick, a 2021 1st-round pick, a 2021 2nd-round pick, Julian Davenport, and then cornerback / special teamer Johnson Bade-Mossey. Yeah, a lot back and forth here. I mean, I've done quite a few of these videos in the last year included, and this year so far, at this point up through the season. It hasn't even started yet. And this is definitely the hardest one to break down and grade because there's so much, really good parts for both teams and then just terrible parts for both teams. So obviously the Texans kind of known for having, before this, yeah, it's weird because they're kind of known for having maybe the worst offensive line right next to the Dolphins. And so Dolphins, with their best offensive lineman, their only offensive lineman, they give them to the Texans. So the Texans' offensive line gets better. But how much better does one offensive lineman make your offensive line that consists of 5 players? They get Kenny Stills, which I heard the Dolphins were going to possibly cut, which I'm not really seeing it because he's a solid receiver. And the Texans, I think, actually have a pretty good core if healthy. And that's a big if. It's really DeAndre Hopkins, the best receiver in football. And they have Will Fuller and Kiki Kute, who Kute just got hurt a couple weeks ago, but it seems to be minor. And then Will Fuller constantly hurt, but he's a big-time playmaker if he's healthy. So you add Kenny Stills, and it's a pretty darn good core if they stay healthy. So they definitely did need that, in my opinion. And then a 4th-round pick is something. A 4th-round pick still a good pick. 6th-round pick in a year from this next draft. So that's a small part there. And then the Dolphins get a boatload of picks, but now no longer have Laremy Tunsil, their only and best young offensive lineman. They do get a young offensive lineman. Julian Davenport hasn't worked out for the Texans. Still can't rule out his potential. Maybe with a new team that changes things, maybe he can get better. So I guess that is a piece. That's something. His value probably was very small though. Maybe if he was traded straight up, 6th-round pick, I'd say maybe a 7th. So that's how I value him. So yeah, this one's very hard to grade. So all these videos I grade each team very hard. I'm trying to figure out how to do this the best way. I'm gonna reveal the Miami Dolphins grade and break it down here. So I gave them a B. I gave them a B, and let's kind of go. Now you guys know I gave them a B. Let's kind of go back to the trade details because a lot of this is gonna come into play here. So the Dolphins get rid of Laremy Tunsil, so now they have no offensive line whatsoever, pretty much. So their current quarterback's going to be beat up, but they pretty much know that their future quarterback is in college right now, yet to be drafted. So you did set yourself up. You got a bunch of picks, so you pretty much set yourself up to be able to get almost any quarterback you want in the future, whether it's this upcoming year with Tua or Justin Herbert, maybe Jake Fromm. Possibly, and then or the next year, the year after, Trevor Lawrence is the guy featured in that class. Maybe Justin Fields makes his way up, but yeah. So they pretty much get their pick. We expect them to pick in the top 3 this year, and maybe even next year because they'll have no offensive line. So they set themselves up pretty good with the picks, and I actually like the 2021 2nd-round pick since it's not this year, it's next year because they have 2 in 2020, and then now because of this, they have 2 in 2021. So instead of going 3 and 1. Split it even. It looks pretty good. So a bunch of picks, 2 1st-rounders this year, 2 1st-rounders next year. They're loaded, even with their own picks, the picks they gathered before this, and these picks. So they're loaded. They can move. But the bad thing is they need to revamp their whole offensive line. You know, they need to go find another Laremy Tunsil. I mean, they need to find the whole offensive line. Can they do that with this amount of picks? I think they can, but they also may have to trade up to get their quarterback because their eyes are set on a certain quarterback. So that's why I'm kind of back and forth on this. I gave them the B because they did load up on picks. You know how I love picks, but this is a great example of a trade that we really need to grade down the line, see how it works out. Really got to see not even how these players involved here play, it's just who they pick. You know, I think them most likely having to move around and trade for a quarterback unless they get the very first pick in the future, that definitely could affect this. So since they do have to pretty much revamp their offensive line and find the most important piece, again, in Laremy Tunsil, I could not give them an A. It's a tough one to grade, very tough one to grade. They do have a boatload of picks. We'll see what they do. I think they got their sights set on somebody, you know, or they just like the draft class in general. The offensive line draft class coming up is pretty good too, but in terms of quarterback, you know they have quite a few to pick from in the next 2 years. So it'd be interesting to see. Their current quarterbacks, Fitzmagic's going to start right away, and then Rosen, I'm sure, will come at some point. They're going to get beat up. I want to give them a worse grade. I want to give them a worse grade than this. Why? Because of the Josh Rosen trade. They went out and traded for Josh Rosen just at the end of April in that draft when they really knew that they were going to go for a quarterback of the future, so that was pointless. But that really has nothing to do with this actual trade or what was traded back and forth in this trade, so I couldn't deduct points for that, but I really want to because that does not look good now. But I guess they didn't give up anything crazy high, but I mean, still, those draft picks are valuable. They know now how valuable the draft picks are. So for the Houston Texans, I gave them a C+, another tough one to grade. Texans get a C+. We'll bring back the details. We'll bring them back up. I do like that. I mean, they didn't get better today because they lost Clowney. So let's get that straight. But that has nothing to do with this deal. So move past the Clowney thing. With this deal, they get better today. With this deal alone, they get better today. Laremy Tunsil is a plug-and-play left tackle, and he has upside. He's not the best left tackle in football, though, keep in mind. He can get there or close to there. Kenny Stills, like I said, I like the addition. I like that they added him because I think they needed another good receiver like that. Receiver core looks real good right now. But just think about Tunsil. What would you trade for Tunsil alone? Would it be 2 first-round picks? It wouldn't be that much. Yeah, you add Kenny Stills in there, but how much is he worth? The Dolphins may have released him. They may have tried to trade him for a mid-round pick. So they gave up a lot to me. They gave up a lot for kind of going back to me saying, how much of a difference does one offensive lineman make in a unit? I've always been a believer in each offensive lineman is as good as the unit. They work together, and Tunsil played pretty well with the Dolphins' mediocre offensive line, and he'll play well with the Texans. But I mean, it's not like magically Deshaun Watson's not going to get hit or rushed anymore. It's going to be a little better, but it's not going to be anything magical. And them doing this trade, they're pushing for a Super Bowl the next 2 years, is what it tells me. They're not going to have a first-round pick for the next 2 years. That's what they're pushing for. So it's pretty much, you can't say it's a loss if they don't win a Super Bowl because Tunsil still has upside, but I don't know. I think they can contend possibly. I don't know if they can win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years. I do like that they got a 4th-round pick to go along. And just another one I'm back and forth on because they got better. They got a left tackle. It's hard to come across these guys, but is it that hard to come across these guys where you trade 2 first-rounders, a 2nd-rounder, and a Julian Davenport as well? That's the question. And really what I thought about, kind of went a year back and just think about a team who didn't pick in the 1st round in this last draft and who won't be picking in the 1st round this draft. It was the Chicago Bears trading for Khalil Mack. Now that's worth it. Is Laremy Tunsil worth around the same thing as Khalil Mack? I just don't think so. I don't think he makes that big of an impact, I should say. He doesn't make that big of an impact, and I'm not trying to compare those 2 players that play 2 different positions, but you kind of look at the value of different players and what kind of impact they can make. I think they gave up too much for, I know it's more than one. It's one piece of the offensive line. It's one piece of the offensive line, even though Kenny Stills and the 4th-round pick could help. I gave it a C+, so I didn't fail them or say it's a terrible draft by any means, because they did get better right now, and they're protecting. The good thing is they're help protecting Watson a little better. So maybe that, if the offensive line is completely terrible, the obviously the injury risk goes up. So they're back and forth with both these teams. There are some really good things for both these teams in this trade. There are some really bad things for both these teams that I explained in this trade. The hardest one to grade. It's definitely one of those that we kind of got to wait and see how these players play, and how who the Dolphins take with these picks. Another thing is we got to wait and see on, is Tunsil going to sign quickly? The Texans still have to sign Tunsil, and he has leverage because of that, because he can just sit. It can be a Clowney situation all over again. I say that's highly unlikely it happens, but it's still possible, and this is what happens when you don't actually have a GM. This stuff like this happens, because usually they confirm that they'll sign long-term with this guy. That hasn't been done yet, from what I've heard. Has not been done yet. So that's why you need front office, people in your organization. That's what they do. Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien's not the smartest. He doesn't look like the smartest guy right now, but you can't put too much blame on him, because he's trying to do his job and coach and cut players and figure out which players fit which spot, and then he's trying to do stuff like this, and then quickly. It's very tough. Got to be a stressful situation. So I don't know if he's done a great job recently, but it's hard to blame him fully. So to see the grades again, I want B for the Miami Dolphins. I'm a big fan of building a team through the draft. They got a bunch of draft picks. I love that. It's just they kind of got to redo the offensive line because of this, and it's kind of a wait and see. Do they have to trade up for their quarterback? I think they're mainly focused on let's put ourselves in the right position to trade up for the quarterback we want if we have to, and then the offensive line will come next. But that new quarterback you get is going to have problems with this offensive line, because it's not going to just be good just like that. Even if you draft and sign some guys through free agency, they do have a lot of dead money too, so I'll see how they handle that. So I can't give them an A, even though I love the draft picks, but I can't drop them down any further than a B, because I love the draft picks. So that's where I got them. The Texans at a C+, kind of to recap why. They still need to sign Tunsil. It's one player in their offense. I know they added Stills. I like Stills, but it's one player. Is it going to make that much of a difference in a unit game? It's as good. Each offense lineman is as good as the unit, is my opinion on that. But they did get better today. They did help protect the quarterback a little bit, but they get up too much in my opinion, so that equals in a C+. So that's where I got it. That's where I got the grades. It's definitely a hard one to grade. Easy one for Clowney. The Clowney trade was the video I did on that a little bit ago today. Very easy to grade. So if you haven't seen that, go check it out. That's going to do it, though. Let me know your guys' thoughts, your grades, anything you think I missed on. Appreciate the support. Please subscribe, turn notifications on. A lot of content already on the channel and more incoming during the NFL season. So thanks for watching this video. Goodbye.